Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. As you know, here on the Pace Report, I like to introduce as well as profile musicians that have had a very important impact on Black American music. And tonight here on the Pace Report, I'm honored to interview a saxophonist and educator who hails from the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, the great Jacques Schwarz-Bart. Now, Jacques was recently here in New York City at the Jazz Gallery to perform music from his brand new album, which was the official New York record release performance of his new album, The Harlem Suite, which is now on Rope-A-Dope Records. Now, the Harlem Suite are compositions and songs that are a myriad of his reflections of his time living in Harlem for almost 20 years. Tonight here on the Pace Report, I had a chance to sit down and break bread with Jacques to talk about his origins growing up in Guadeloupe, as well as his origins in the Caribbean and learning his native music, as well as playing and recording with the likes of D'Angelo and the great Erykah Badu, and we reflect on the legendary Roy Hargrove. Also in this interview, we sit down with his dear friend, the great Ray Angry, who was a part of the first iteration of the RH Factor, which Roy Hargrove put together right after he recorded the Voodoo Project, D'Angelo. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of the official New York record release performance of the Harlem Suite, performed by saxophonist, educator, and composer Jacques Schwarz-Bart, live at the Jazz Gallery here in New York City, here on the Pace Report. Brother Jacques.
What's going on, Brian?
Let's talk about the Harlem Suite, Dope Records. This is your 12th record?
My 11th.
11th record.
Yeah.
You're paying homage to a place that's very, very special to you now.
Absolutely.
Why did you decide to do this record now?
You know, I had to take a step back to gain perspective on all the songs and the work that I have written throughout those years in Harlem, to see how I could, first of all, select the tunes that could create a story with meaningful content and contrast, so that there is it's like taking a journey through Harlem and also through my personal history in Harlem. Oftentimes, you know, when you are living in the place in question, you're too close to it, and that little distance that I took once I moved to Boston allowed me somehow to put together what I would call a colorful fresque written in the language of modern jazz, but that is true to the spirit of African music, of healing and uplifting.
Tell my viewers who's on this new album.
So we have the immortal Terrell Carrington on 5 songs. We have another immortal Marcus Gilmore on drums. On bass, you have Matt Penman on most tunes, Reggie Washington as well, and we have 2 very special singers on a couple of tracks, the great Stephanie McKay and Malika Tyrolian, who illustrated herself lately next to Jacob Collier and the Snarky Puppy.
You know, Harlem is a place where I live in Harlem, and Harlem during the Great Migration, people from all over the South came to live better, to have a better life.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you, coming from an island,
yeah,
how did that transcend a lot of your musical experience when you came to America?
You know, it's when I finally moved to Harlem that I felt a home in America, because Harlem is a place where you can find African people from all places in the world. From Africa, first of all, you have Little Africa, but you have African cultures from South America, from the Caribbean, you know. So it was like being at home, really. And I could hear people speaking Creole. We could hear African people speaking French once in a while, and I could speak Spanish with the people from Puerto Rico and Cuba. So somehow it really felt like you know, an extension of the culture that I'm from.
You know, it's crazy. We talk about jazz music, and jazz is definitely African. But there are a lot of tremendous people from the West Indies and the Caribbean that very important to jazz music. Thelonious Monk, Wynton Kelly, Sonny Rollins, yourself. Tell people how
Jelly Roll Morton, the creator of jazz music.
Yeah.
So you know, people sleep on that connection between you know, the West Indies and jazz music, but it's at the roots of jazz. You know, Congo Square in New Orleans. It's all people from my island, from Trinidad, from Haiti, from Martinique. You know, that we're, you know, getting together and celebrating their culture through music. and then including in the mix European instruments, you know, banjo, different you know, trumpets and trombones, and then, you know, jazz came along through this mixture of Caribbean and you know, Native American cultures.
You hail from the island of Guadeloupe. Tell me about your musical experiences starting out, because you didn't start playing the saxophone until very, very late in life. In fact, you're an attorney, which a lot of people don't know. But again, you have a very unique background. Tell my viewers how the island of Guadeloupe kind of started this whole journey for you.
You know, in Guadeloupe we have something very special. We have a music that is connected to African roots called Gwoke, that is based on a dialogue between voice and drums and dancing. We created our own rhythms. We have a very complex system of rhythms. We have 7 families of rhythms that are declined through many different variations, and we have our own musical instrument, the Gwoke Drums. So this foundation gave me a sense of pride, first of all, in this heritage, and also it connected me spiritually to any kind of other significant music coming from that background, including jazz, but not only, you know, voodoo music from Cuba, Santeria music, candomblé music, and of course gospel music from America. Through this one fundamental link to African culture, you know, Gwoke music, I feel like I gained access to a sensitivity that connected me to the entire Afro-diasporic world.
I did some interesting research on you. The music of your native Guadeloupe was looked and shunned upon people of the spiritual world, kind of like what the blues is here in America,
yes.
The gospel. Explain how your mother and father kind of made you listen to the music of your native country with open eyes, and how that affected you musically.
You know, in order to be an artist, you have to have courage, and you have to be an iconoclast, break the molds, and my parents certainly did that. At the time that they met and decided to get married, there were no missed couple. It was shunned upon by society, and I remember walking around with my parents, and people were, you know, just looking at us like strangely and with disdain. But they had the courage to live their love beyond the concept of race and culture. The same type of courage applied to exposing me to our native music of Gwoke. And when I fell in love with it, a lot of our friends said that, you know, I needed to be exorcised, that I was possessed by the devil. But and they would try to convince me, you know, behind my parents' back, to stop, you know, that I was going straight into a wall of perdition. But I followed my heart, and my heart is leading me, and has been leading me, towards affirming and claiming this connection to Africa.
What is the difference between the music of the French Caribbean versus the African diaspora music of the Caribbean? I know that there's melody changes, chord changes, rhythm changes. What are some of the things that differentiates both of the parallels of that music?
So between let's say Gwoke music and what type of music?
African music.
Oh, African music. There's really no difference between Gwoke music from Ireland and the music from Africa that you know, traditional spiritual music that you will hear in Africa. It's I would say it's a variation of it, but all the fundamentals are exactly the same, you know, and that's why musicians who have been educated musically in Guadeloupe, you find them in a lot of the greatest African bands. You know, you have several Guadeloupeans that have played with Manu Dibango, with the Salif Keita, with the, you know, the great bands of Afrobeat. You know, it's we are connected to African music, not by you know, by understanding from the outside, but from the inside. It's part of us.
From my understanding, you graduated from school and went to law school.
Yes, yes.
And you diametrically were, when you finished, you became you got your law degree, but you also went to work for the government. Yeah. And that was at that point when you had an epiphany that music was where you wanted to be. Explain how the saxophone came into your trajectory at this time.
You know, a friend of mine had a lot of instruments in her house, and one of them was a saxophone. And when I came back from Paris after graduating from the School of Government, and I was about to take my first high position in the government, I came back home in Guadeloupe to celebrate, and they had a party, and I saw that saxophone there, and I had been listening to jazz ever since I was a little boy. I was a fan of Train, Coleman Hawkins, Ben Webster and everything. So I told her to put together the saxophone for me so that I could, you know, give it a truth. And after 20-25 minutes of trying it, I found my way through the keys and the embouchure, and I started making melodies. And it was love at first sight. You know, the friends that were there with us, they thought that I was lying when I said that I'd never played the saxophone before, and they had a little band that was playing a lot in Guadeloupe back then, and they were like, you know, why don't you come and play with us tomorrow? We need a saxophone player for a gig. And so the day after I first played the saxophone, I played my first gig, and that summer I played about, you know, between 4 and 7 gigs every week.
Fast forward to Berklee, and I'm just looking at some of your classmates. Ruben Rogers, Charles Craig,
yep,
Teodross Avery,
absolutely.
Now, coming into a world where you're law and you're government,
yes,
you're thrown into the midst of Berklee is like the Harvard of music schools.
Absolutely.
You get musicians from all over the world. First of all, was it a culture shock learning theory and learning from these musicians, these progressive musicians? And two, how did you have to foot your way in the midst of this big sea of musicians?
Listen, it was an education. You know, I knew that I was an outsider, that my chance to just achieve anything in music was slim to none. So I was just going along for the journey, just enjoying learning, and I learned with avidity, and I was greedy for learning. And in the process of learning, I grew very fast. And after about a year and a half, I started playing with a lot of the major figures in Boston, like Daniel Perez, Giovanni Hidalgo, Bob Moses, and all the people who told me at the beginning when I arrived at Berklee that I didn't stand a chance that I should go back to Paris and get my job back at the Senate. They started you know, kind of fighting with me for my gigs, and until I had all the good gigs, and they didn't know what to make of it, and some of them reacted by gossiping about me in order to try to convince people not to hire me, but it didn't matter. At this point, I had received legitimacy from Danilo Perez, from Bob Moses, and they mentored me, and they made me, you know, immune to the little attacks that you know, started spurring here and there.
Tell me the first professional gig musician here in America. Who are the musicians that you started playing off with?
Anthony Wanzi, Ron Savage, Ron McD, Alan Malay. Those are the people who first gave me a chance before anybody else. And then came more famous people like the ones that I mentioned. Then I moved to New York, and that's when I met Roy, and then all the...
We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. You know, Roy Hargrove. I'm 50, so all the musicians that I grew up listening to, my icons are gone. Michael Jackson, Prince, Biggie, Tupac, Whitney, Roy Hargrove.
Yeah.
Roy, at a young age, had it. And I need to know the first time you met Roy and the first time you heard Roy. What did you think about his musicianship? And then when he asked to play with you, what were some of the things that you got from him that helped you grow as a musician?
So how I met Roy what was kind of a crazy story. I had been in New York for about 2 weeks, and my plan was to hit every jam session. So after a Latin jazz jam session in the Village, somebody told me that Roy and Chucho were playing at Bradley's, and I was like, well, let's go. I was with my buddy Bruce Flowers, who's an excellent pianist who used to play with Betty Carter, and so we're heading there, and as we're getting closer, I'm hearing such beautiful sounds oozing from the club. Roy is wailing on that trumpet, and I feel, you know, almost like high from the music. So as I entered, I was like, I know I shouldn't, but I need to play with those guys. So I pulled my horn, and Bruce was trying to make me stop. He was like, you know, nobody knows you. They're gonna boot you out of the stage, and you're gonna be blacklisted, and you just arrived 2 weeks ago. Don't freaking do this. And at the time, I was still young. I still had my judo black belt strength, so I pushed bruised back, and he knew better after that to even come close to me. And I finished, put my horn together, jumped on stage, and I had that big fro at the time, and Roy thought I was a Cubano, a friend of Chucho, and Chucho thought I was a friend of Roy because I had that New York vibe.
Right.
And,
Brother Jacques. They didn't know. Brother Jacques.
Roy, you know, finished playing, and as he was finishing, I was focusing so hard on trying to analyze the structure and the form and the changes. And when Roy gave me the nod, I played as if my life depended on it. And after that, Roy took my number. And I was surprised to get a call the week after that from his manager, Larry Clothier. And when he called me, telling me, you know, are you available to go on the road with us in a couple of weeks? I was like, I don't appreciate that kind of prank. You know, you better stop. You're gonna depress me for weeks at the time. This is not cool. And he said, no, this is for real, man. We want you to come on the road with us. And I was like, to play what repertoire? And he said, Roy said you'll hear it. I was like, what in the world? So I found myself in the airport heading to Europe, you know, Leverkusen in Germany, the first of many gigs that we played. And it was the Crisol band, the Afro-Caribbean jazz project that he had. And I was begging for charts. I had been begging for charts for, you know, ever since I got that call. And Larry said, you know, we might bring you something, you know, at the airport. I show up at the airport. No charts. No charts, no reference, no music. We go to sound check. I open my ears wide. Then between the sound check and the concert, he showed me a few heads. And we started
off to the races.
And off to, exactly. And I was focusing so hard I could have died from a heart attack. And after the gig, Roy said, "The gig is yours." I guess, you know, I must have heard right, and that was it. From that point on, I've been in you know, most Roy's projects for about 8 years until I decided to create my own projects.
Who's this guy right here?
He's Sir Raymond Angry.
Now, you know, the last good run of R&B came in 94, 95, 96 through probably 2002. And I say that because the Soulquarians, Questlove, Badu, Jay Dilla, James Poyser.
That's my nigga.
It's crazy because I say that because we talk about Roy Hargrove, and Voodoo is a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
Voodoo is like Songs of the Key of Life, fulfilling this first finale. I say that because rhythmically, D'Angelo channeled from the masters, but brought it to 1990, 99, 2000. That was when that record came out.
Yeah.
Tell me the process of working with this ensemble and this enclave of musicians, and how Roy was a very important part of that.
Such a vital time.
I mean, because
that was a very important time.
Yeah, this is the last.
Music.
It was the last run of R&B.
Yes. That was a.
How was Roy integral for this Voodoo album?
So Roy was called by D'Angelo to put together a horn section for his first live shows, and Roy called me for it, and I didn't know D'Angelo's music at the time. It was after Brown Sugar, and it hadn't reached me yet. I walk in the rehearsal, and you know, it was Questlove and James Poyser, Bilal, what was singing background, and
Anthony Hamilton.
Yeah,
wow.
and
Pino Palladino.
Yeah, absolutely. And I start hearing that groove, and I was like, this is different than any groove I ever heard before. The way there is a dissociation, but still a connection and a rub between the bass lines, the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. It's almost like discombobulated, but at the same time harmoniously discombobulated. And
well said.
And I fell in love right away. And I realized that based on this unique relationship between the elements of the rhythm section, D'Angelo was able to groove almost like an entire beat behind, but consistently. He managed to find a sweet spot behind the beat and keep swinging hard at that inside that sweet spot. And moreover, the background vocals were with him all the way and accurately in this behind beat concept. And right there,
which stems from Jay Dilla.
It stems from Jay Dilla, but it applied it to a level of composition and singing that you know were not present in Jay
during the time. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
music. So it was it was an extension of the concept.
It was a new concept, new way of thinking about music. Absolutely.
And since D'Angelo created this new concept, now everybody, you know, imitated you know, that new concept, but he's the one.
You know, another thing too we have to bring into the fold of recording voodoo, and a lot of the Soul Aquarians projects, Electric Lady Studios, which has a hit, we talked about Stevie just a second ago. There's a lot of important records that came out. A lot of information. Yeah. Yes. And I gotta ask you, recording in that studio, what's that space like?
You know, you answer.
Expensive. Hello. Expensive.
But
but amazing.
You enter certain spaces like Electric Lady or Power Station, and every freaking thing you play sounds like $1 million.
Yeah, because you have the best of everything.
Right. But that space.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta realize, circa 68, 69 to 80, there was some pivotal soul and rock records that came out of that place.
Yes. Hello.
So D'Angelo transcribed a lot of that energy into this project from that studio.
I think he was just, I think the thing about D'Angelo people don't realize is that, you know, most creatives just love music. You know what I mean? And it's not rocket science. It's like, you know, when you sign up to be an artist, it's like you sign up to put your soul on the line. You know what I mean? You don't give a fuck. You're like, yo, I'm ready to put my soul on the line to express myself. You know what I mean? And the experience that we had with D'Angelo and Roy, for that matter,
we're gonna get into that in a second.
You know, is that both of these two human beings were selfless in their expression for the arts.
Right.
And we were, you know what I mean?
Not only that, but they were both students of the game.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, they were living encyclopedias.
Yeah.
And having so many references in mind, it mattered to them to record in a place like Electric Lady.
Yeah.
Because of what it means for
because
Black
what it
music
means
history.
to the culture.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a cultural significance. You know, working there with like Mark Ronson and fucking D'Angelo and all these amazing artists. You know, Electric Lady has a vibe.
It sure does. It sure does.
Has a vibe. And you can't pay for a vibe. You know what I mean? But when you don't have it, you know it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very important the fact that we were able to connect with D'Angelo, Amy Winehouse. Let's not forget her, because she was a part of that shit too.
Absolutely.
At least during my connection with Roy and Mark Ronson and Questlove and D'Angelo, you know, Amy,
for me,
Winehouse,
Erykah Badu
very important
was
part of that.
Was an important part of my journey as well, in the neo soul and also at Electric Lady. You know, she was one of the people who would like book Electric Lady for 2 months.
Who is this?
Erykah Badu.
Oh, say it less. Please. Erykah Badu, fucking love her. No.
I saw the Voodoo tour at Shane Park in Detroit. Lucy Pearl opened up for them. And I remember
what a name that was.
God, what a short-lived name that was.
That was incredible.
That was a blur.
And a blur like a motherfucker.
I mean, Ali Shaheed.
I hate that was so short.
Oh, listen. Like I said, that period of time is not
group.
Yeah, it was. It was. One last thing we want to talk about, Roy. Voodoo is important because voodoo was really the integral part of the RH Factor, the beginnings of the RH Factor.
Yes, that was the very beginning, yes.
We were talking earlier about the original group of the RH Factor. Tell me what you told me earlier about Brother Jacques, Glasper, yeah. There's
first of all, fuck that. RH Factor, the beginning part of it was me, Robert Glasper, Spanky, Reggie Washington. Woo, and what's the drummer from Dallas? JT.
Jason Thomas.
That was a crazy group.
That really.
And during that time, Roy's manager,
Larry
put that together. Cause I was fresh out of college. I just got my master's degree, and I was like, working with Khalees, and I was working with Lauryn Hill, like off and on. And so I would basically I would go on tour with Khalees. We were on tour with Britney Spears and shit. She was doing a milkshake and shit, and I was her musical director. And and she was like, oh yeah, sort of doing her thing. But then I was like, yo, I want to make serious music. And then I got the gig with Roy, promoting his record, which was the RH Factor. And so I was like working with him and working with Khalees. And then when I was not working with Khalees, I was working with Lauryn Hill. So that's how I became really cool with Lauryn Hill. And it was all because of fucking Roy Hargrove. You know what I mean? And Roy and his manager. I was, the new kid on the block. And I'm so appreciative to Roy for fucking with me as a young cat on the scene, You know what I mean? Because it was me and Robert Glasper. And you know what Robert Glasper's doing now.
Right.
This shit fucks my head up to this day. But we never talked about it.
And
it's my first time talking about it.
And Jacques, I gotta ask you, with the RH Factor, did you notice that Roy was tired of playing traditional jazz? He wanted to move out of that and start playing his own music, more of his own music in a different format.
Well, you know, Roy, as we said, is a student of the game, so he was in love with the whole tradition of black music. Yeah. So he didn't want to be pigeonholed into just playing straight ahead jazz.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and at some point he wanted to embrace something else. You know, all the things that have been part of his culture,
which was D'Angelo and everything associated with
hip hop too. Let's not forget, he did some hip hop. Yeah, I mean, Common. I mean,
exactly.
There was some
working with Jay Dilla.
Yeah, Dilla. Right.
Yeah. So it was not a rejection of jazz music. Yeah. It was just a broadening of his horizon.
Continuum.
A continuum, absolutely. And once he got called by D'Angelo to do the horns on Voodoo, you know, and him and I started talking after those gigs, and I created at the time the Brother Jacques project. And
I wasn't invited, but I forgive you, brother.
I didn't know you yet.
Oh, okay.
And in the Brother Jacques show, you know, Roy came to sit in with my band. We had a residence at Bar 13, but you know, it doesn't exist anymore. Just like Bradley's doesn't exist anymore. And Roy came jam with us several times, and he fell in love with that song, Forget Regret.
Ooh. That's on the album. That's your song. Yeah, that's your song.
That became the single of you know, the RH Factor later on. You know, he said, "No,
a great song.
We need you, and we need your song as well." And this is how I first got I got my first record deal based on that song.
Wow.
Because prior to that, people saw me as a saxophone player, and then after that they were like, well, this guy can write too, you know. Let's see if he can write something, you know, like an entire album. And after talking to the people at Universal, I was like, you know, I have a concept based on my African rhythms from Guadeloupe, from Gwoke music, and mixed with jazz, and that was my first album on Universal called Sonekala.
Reflecting on now that, you know, Roy is no longer with us, what are some things that musically you guys are proud as far as the RH Factor? What are some things that you are happy about, proud about, and then also the legacy of Roy as a musician? What are some things that both of you want to leave?
You know, I'm proud of the fact that I was able to connect with my brother Jacques, and then we can reconnect. You know, because I'm finding that the most important thing is in this game is relationships. You know, and relationships mean everything. You know, and the fact that I can have a relationship with, you know, a cat who's such a genius in the game, and you know, to me that's the most important part, because, you know, it's about community. You know what I mean?
Listen, I never told you that, but you look like my best friend from Guadeloupe. You know, that I grew up with, and every time I see you, I feel like I'm with family, man.
Wow. Well, you're family, brother. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Oh. And, you know, and it's wild for me now, because I would always almost imagine if Robert Glasper was here, he would feel the same fucking way. You know what I mean? Because, you know, us on tour, that tour we did in Dallas,
that was foundational.
Oh,
that was foundational. And,
you know,
and
with Spanky, oh,
listen.
Woo! Oh my God, bro, listen.
Are there any live recordings of that?
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately not.
No videos exist.
I mean, the crazy part is I met the baddest bitches. I met the bad. I remember one time when we were in Dallas fucking with the RH Factor, I met this chick who was studying psychology, you know what I mean? And she was a bad joint, you know what I mean? And it was that kind of energy. It was this intellectual energy that Roy had with the RH Factor. You know what I mean? That we were able to connect with people on a different level. You know what I mean? I was connecting with people on a psychological level. You know, it wasn't just music, it was based on philosophy about life. You know what I mean? Connected with different musicians with their own philosophies about music. You know what I mean? And Roy was open to all of this shit. And that's a beautiful part of it. You know what I mean? He was, you know, and he knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? I miss Roy so much, man. Ah.
Any closing words, my friend?
Listen, I just feel blessed to be sharing those moments, you know, with somebody like Raymond, who was there when we were nobody.
Well, you were nobodies.
And we learned so much together, and then, you know, from there we were able to grow into artists with their own vision, and now we can reconnect.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live from the Jazz Gallery for Jacques Schwarz-Bart's New York City record release performance of his new album, The Harlem Suite, which is now available on Amazon.com and Twitter. For more information on Jacques' upcoming tour dates and to order his album online, please visit him at his website at brotherjacques.com. I'd like to personally thank the staff and management and Rio for her warm hospitality at the Jazz Gallery. Make sure if you're in New York City, please support the programming at the Jazz Gallery. Also, people, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos and leave comments here on YouTube and Vimeo, as well as follow me on social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.